start again with the salutation to Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you had a good lunch. And just before, we were in the little library here, and I was glancing a bit anxiously at the Abhidharma books in the bookcase. I was afraid that maybe somebody had taken my story about the termites a little too literally and thought that we were serving Abhidhamma books for lunch. But they were still intact on the shelves. Okay, so this morning I covered what I see to be the process of transition from the teaching of the Nikayas to the Abhidharma. And I dealt with some of the key features from the suttas that seem to serve as the seeds out of which the Abhidharma developed. And now this afternoon's session, I gave it the title, What's Going On in the Abhidharma? And so again, I'm not going to try to go through the whole Abhidharma system and to summarize it in one session, but rather to find out what is the project, maybe you call it the overarching vision that underlies the system of the Abhidharma. Why did the Abhidharma develop in this way, and what are the striking features in the Abhidhamma? And I lay out this theme in terms of what I call three primary features of the Abhidhamma method. I'm going to explain each one in detail, but just first to take the three main features. One I call, and I'll explain this word later, an ontology of bare factors of existence, which is known as the Dhamma Theory. For those of you who are very precise, I have to apologize. There's a mixture here of the Pali form Dhamma and the Sanskrit form Dharma. I was not certain which form to use because some of these features are common to the different Abhidharma systems, in which case it might seem better to use the Sanskrit form. But then when I'm speaking specifically about the Pali Abhidharma, then the Pali form seems more appropriate. So they got mixed up. Okay, but this ontology is what we call, in quotes, the Dhamma Theory. The second primary feature is what is called an attribute matika. And this is a master list of contrasting and complementary qualities that is used in order to classify the Dhammas. And then the third is a detailed typology or classification of consciousness. That is a way, this typology of consciousness provides a way of mapping the Dhammas or the phenomena according to their relationship to the mind. And if those three general statements didn't chase everybody out the door, I feel a bit relieved. Okay, now I'm going to take each of these in turn. So the first is what I call an ontology of the bare or basic factors, constituents, elements of experience. And the word ontology, it's a word which is used in philosophy to mean, ontos means being, existence, and ology is the study of. So ontology is a philosophy of of being, a philosophical investigation into the nature of the real. Okay, and so what is the ontology of the Dhamma theory? Okay, so the ontology involves positing a distinction between what is real and what is apparent, what is truly existent, and what is a conceptual construction based on what is really existent. A distinction between the ultimate elements that are encountered in a purely, again, I'm a little uncomfortable with these words, in a purely phenomenological approach to experience, and then the conventional entities that we deal with in ordinary life. Okay, let me explain what this is about. Now, the sort of linchpin of Brahminic philosophy, or the philosophy in the Brahminic schools, against the background of which Buddhism arose, the linchpin for the Brahmin systems was the Atman, the self. And so the great quest for the spiritual seekers, the philosophers, the contemplatives of the Upanishads was to discover at the deepest level of the individual person, to discover the innermost, the truest, the most ultimate reality, which they call the Atman, the self, the true self. And then the quest for the ultimate reality underlying the world, the outer world, led to the realization that that ultimate reality, that holy or divine reality, is what they call Brahman. And so for the Upanishads, the ultimate realization is the realization that our own innermost self, the Atman, is identical with that permanent, substantial reality, the divine reality underlying the world, which is Brahman. And so this is the key discovery of the Upanishads, that Atman, the innermost self, is Brahman, the divine reality underlying the world. Now the Buddha sort of knocked out of his system the Atman, the self, and Brahman, the underlying reality behind the world. So for the Buddha, the person, the ultimate nature of the person, the ultimate nature of the world is sunya, empty. So we have the saying, even in the Pali Canon, sunyo loko, the world is empty. The world is empty of what? Empty of a self, empty of what belongs to self. And so there's no innermost self within the person, and no substantial divine real self, or no substantial divine permanent reality underlying the world. So what does the Buddha teach? This was the inquiry when Sariputta was first a wandering ascetic seeking the Dhamma. When he met one of the Buddhist monks, one of the first Buddhist monks, he asked that monk, "What does the Buddha teach?" And the monk replied, "Ye Dhamma hetu pabhava, te sang hetung tatagato aha, yocha te san cha nirodo, evang vadi mahasamano." The great sage, the Buddha, teaches the Dhammas that originate from a cause, and he teaches their cause and he teaches their cessation. That is what the great ascetic, the Buddha, teaches. And so the Buddha, in place of the self and the Brahman, puts dhammas, which are phenomena, the constituents of experience. The dhammas are the types of things that are grouped into the 5 aggregates, the 12 sense bases, the 18 elements. The dhammas are linked by certain laws of conditionality, which give us dependent origination. And so to understand the Dhamma, that is the teaching of the Buddha, means that one investigates and understands dhammas, a plural, as the constituents, the elements, the building blocks of experience. Then we see in the suttas that, already in the suttas, that the Buddha uses, we call this 2 styles of discourse, 2 ways of speaking. Sometimes he'll speak in terms of, or often will speak in terms of persons. Like this person, when a person does good by body, speech, and mind, then he lives happily here and now, and he moves on to a good destination after death. That's just one example of the kind of speech or discourse in terms of persons, individuals, people. But then there's another style of discourse that we come across, particularly in things like the collection of discourses on the 5 aggregates, on the sense bases, which are formulated almost entirely in terms of dhammas. Like, I will teach you the things to be fully understood. It catches on slowly. Okay, like here from the collection on the 5 aggregates, the Buddha's teaching, it's a sutta called anicca, impermanence. Okay, rupang anicca, vedana anicca, sanya anicca, sankhara anicca, vijnanang anicca. So form is impermanent, feeling is impermanent, perception is impermanent, volitional activity is impermanent, consciousness impermanent. So this discourse is given in terms of dhammas. Okay, so now the proponents of the Abhidhamma, drawing upon this kind of distinction between 2 types of discourse, posit that what is truly real, what is true, what is genuinely existent are the dhammas. Then when we speak about persons are considered, they use the term conventional realities, conventional entities, which are sort of mentally constructed on the basis of the dhammas. Mentally constructed, mentally fabricated, abstracted from. And so from the standpoint of the Abhidhamma, the dhammas are the ultimate existence. These are the basic elements of experience. And then on the basis of these ultimate elements, we construct conceptual realities, which are that of persons, living beings, sentient beings, entities, solid entities. And so the Abhidhamma, I think already this is implicit within the early Abhidhamma, makes this distinction between the basic constituents of experience, which are real, while the persons and things of everyday interactions are considered conceptual constructs put together on the basis of the dhammas, the ultimate entities. Okay, now one thing that the Abhidhamma does, not only does it use this insight into the nature of the real as being Dhammas, but it lays out the Dhammas in particular schemes. And I've tried to specify, we say, 3 purposes that underlie the different conceptual schemes. So I say that these 3 purposes, one is to open up the experiential field to investigation, to arrive at direct knowledge or clear understanding. It's necessary to investigate and to penetrate the nature of experience. And in order to investigate the nature of experience, one has to see how this, experience, without any kind of guide, it looks like one solid block. And that's what we grasp upon, that solid block of experience. Then we build up false conceptions, which become the means of tying us down to the passions of lust and hatred, anger, conceit, jealousy, envy, denigration, competition. So all of those defiled emotions arise on the basis of a wrong grasp of the nature of experience. And so to break free from that, to break out from that wrong grasp, one has to investigate the experiential field and see how it actually is a field constituted by a whole multiplicity of factors that are arising and passing away and linked together by very intricate nets of conditionality. Okay, so this is one objective of the Abhidhamma in laying out these schemes, these classes of Dhammas. Another objective is, I call this, to expose. That is, to expose the causes of bondage and suffering. And then the third purpose is to prescribe. That is, the Dharma is called a medicine. And so what is prescribed is the means, the methods to be cultivated in order to attain liberation. So these are the aids to enlightenment, or the wings to awakening. So what the Abhidharma does throughout these pages and pages of seemingly dry and repetitive texts is to collate these factors, to bring them together, to show the correspondences between them, and to establish the relationships between them. And so one thing that one finds in the Abhidhamma is that the Abhidhamma will pick up terms that are used in the suttas, and then it will show that these terms used in different contexts within the suttas with seemingly different meanings eventually converge or ultimately converge on a single factor which is functioning in different ways, or it takes on a somewhat different nuance in different contexts. But what seem to be different factors in the suttas, according to the Abhidhamma method, are shown to reduce to a single factor of experience. And so when we reduce them to the single element of experience, we see that there's actually a much more, we call this a finite number of basic elements or building blocks of experience, which are then labeled and designated in different ways depending upon the different sets in relation to which it's functioning. So I take first a concrete example or an analogy. It's like we have one man who might be a professor of religious studies in, let's say, University UCal Berkeley. So during his normal day-to-day functioning, he's Professor, we call him Professor White. But he's also the General Secretary for the American Academy of Religion. So when he gets a correspondence from relating to the American Academy of Religion. It will be addressed to Professor X.Y. White, General Secretary, American Academy of Religion. But he's also a member of the Lions Club, so when he meets his friends in the Lions Club, they don't call him Professor White, but they'll call him, I called him XY something. That doesn't work unless he's a Xavier. We'll call him B.R. White, Professor B.R. White. Bernard. Okay, so when he comes to the Lions Club meeting, they'll call him Barney. Bernie, how are you, Bernie? But then he's also a husband, so when he goes home to his wife calls him honey or dear, and then he has some children, so his children call him daddy. So he's the same man, but at the university he's Professor White. At the academy he's Secretary, General Secretary White. At the Lions Club he's Bernie. To his wife he's honey or dear, and to his children he's daddy. Okay, so with the Abhidharma we have, taking different terms from the suttas, we have 3 terms. This is just one example of many. So vijnana, which is usually translated consciousness, mano, which is usually translated as mind, and the word citta, which is also usually translated as mind. This is a bit of a problem with English. We don't have as many words for cognitive functions as exist in Pali. Okay, when we look in the suttas, the 3 terms are used in different contexts. The word vijnana is used generally in the context of undergoing sensory experience. When somebody cognizes a form, one does so with eye consciousness, visual consciousness. So that's Chakku Vijnana. Mano is sometimes used as a faculty, one of the faculties of cognizing, related to the eye faculty, ear faculty, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. Then the 6th one is mano, or manindriya, the mind faculty. And then the 3rd term, citta, is generally used very much like we use the word mind in English, as that which is subject to emotions, that which gets sometimes ruffled and disturbed, that which can be calmed down, that which we have to train and tame and master, that which is liberated. Now when you come to an Abhidharma text like the Dhammasangani, okay, I think this is in the analysis of the first state of wholesome consciousness, the first wholesome chittupada, the first wholesome occasion of consciousness in the Dhammasangani. So what is present on that occasion? It gives a long list of factors, the factors that are present. Amongst them, we have contact, feeling, perception, volition, citta, mind. Then a bunch of other factors are mentioned. Then certain indriyas or faculties are mentioned, amongst them man indriya, the faculty of mano, of mind. So far we have citta and mano. Then amongst the other factors that's present is, well, I don't see vijnana listed here, but let's see how manindriya is. First, how is citta explained? Okay, so then it goes through each of these factors individually. It says, on that occasion, what is contact? Defines it. What is feeling? Defines it. What is perception? Defines it. What is volition? Defines it. Now comes the question, on that occasion, what is citta? Now listen to this definition. On that occasion, whatever is citta, okay, citta is being defined in terms of itself, mano, so mano is being used to define citta, manasang, which is, we could say, is mentality. Then it uses the word hadayang, which means heart, pandarang, clarity, manayatana, the mind base, manindriya, the mind faculty, vijnana, consciousness, vijnana kanda, the aggregate of consciousness. And so through this definition, which we find repeated again and again throughout the work, we could see that the Abhidhamma is bringing those three words from the suttas together as just three ways of representing one particular factor of experience, which gets designated in different ways because when the Buddha is expounding the teaching, that factor of mind or of knowing or of consciousness can be viewed in different ways depending on how it's functioning. Okay, so what the Abhidhamma does is to bring, by tying together strings of synonyms for the key types of terms that one comes across in the sutta, it's showing how the entire world of discourse that we find in the suttas is explaining things from the angle of a certain limited number of dhammas, which are the basic constituents or components of experience. Within the Abhidhamma system, the aggregate of material form, physical form, is subjected to a much more detailed analysis than one finds in the suttas. In the suttas, when material form is being explained, the classic definition is, what is material form? It's the four great elements and whatever material form there is that arises based on the four great elements. But one finds that form that is based on the four great elements in the suttas is not analyzed further. Always we just come to the stopping point, form based on the four great elements. But in the Abhidhamma, it takes terms that we meet in the suttas and shows that these terms actually fall under the heading of the secondary type of material form, the form based on the four great elements. So what are the types of form based on the four great elements? The way it's enumerated in the Abhidhamma, the faculty of eye, faculty of ear, faculty of the nose, faculty of the taste, faculty of tactile sensation in the body. And then many other elements of form are mentioned: color, sound, odor, taste, sex determination, male or female, life faculty, physical, substantial nutriment, and so on. Some of these seem to us today, with our understanding of matter, a little bit strange, but this is the way they were classified. And then the Abhidhamma commentaries pick up on the elements of form that are mentioned in the Abhidhamma Pitaka, and they show how these components of material form fit together into certain sets, groups, which are called, the word used is kalapas. If any of you have meditated with Paug Soyador, or if you've read any of his works, you see how he emphasizes very much discovering and discerning the kalapas, the groups of material phenomena, that bind together. If we might use a modern analogy, we could say that the bare factors of material form are like atoms, and then the kalapas would be like molecules, because the elements of material form don't exist in isolation, but they always bind together, like atoms combining to form molecules. For example, what we call Well, what the text speak of is the material of the I, the material form of the I, is actually a combination of 10 material components. There are the 4 great elements, because that's essential for all matter as the basis. Then there are 4 secondary types of matter: color, odor, taste, and nutritive essence.